Hey, what's up? Dalton Johnson here with another Warriors Weekly where we talk about the week that was for the Warriors and the week that's going to be for the Warriors. The Warriors just came off of a 3-game week where they went 2-1 with a strong win against a lowly Jazz team. But it was a game where Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler showed why they are that 1-2 punch. I like to talk about where if Steph Curry is landing the haymakers, Jimmy Butler is the one that's giving the body blows and just wearing an opponent down. And he complements Steph so well. He is the 1-2 punch to Steph Curry. And this was just another reminder. Yeah, it's the Jazz. But when Jimmy has an overall game like that, you're reminded that when this team is right, when it matters most, if they can stay healthy, that's the kind of balance of two stars that can coexist and take you to the heights that the Warriors expect to be at. But then, unfortunately for the Warriors and unfortunately for Steph Curry, they had a really bad loss against the Houston Rockets. Going into the year, you would say, okay, it's your first game against the Rockets and you lose by 4 points. Not a bad loss. This was a team that was the number 2 seed last year that the Warriors took to 7 games and beat them in the first round of the playoffs last year. A team that went out and added Kevin Durant to make them one of the favorites in the Western Conference and in the entire NBA. But these Rockets didn't have Kevin Durant. They didn't have Tari Eason. They didn't have Steven Adams. What they did have was Reed Shepherd being the latest to have a career high in points and go and get whatever he wants against a defense that is full of holes right now for the Warriors. Reed Shepherd was cooking. Scored over 30 points against the Warriors. Was salivating, going, I'm going to get there. I'm going to shoot from here. I'm going to blow you by you right there. It became the Reed Shepherd show. But the bigger story of the game was Steph Curry. Really, Steph Curry's health. Steph only scored 14 points. Had a rough game where the Rockets are super physical. But in the end, Steph Curry, for about the final 3-4 minutes of the fourth quarter, had a rough limp that only got worse and worse as the game went on, where he banged legs with Alperen Şengün, where he was taken out diving for a loose ball as well. And finally, with about 35 seconds left, Rick Celebrini just turned to the bench and gave him one of these, said, "It has been enough. Steph is out." Walked down the tunnel back to the locker room, and it was later confirmed that Steph Curry has a left quad contusion and a muscle strain. He's being reevaluated on Thursday, which means that he missed the next game, which was a win against the New Orleans Pelicans. We'll get right into that, which means he's going to miss the game against the Oklahoma City Thunder on Tuesday night. No Steph Curry against OKC is going to be a tall task for the Warriors at Chase Center, and it means that he will for sure miss at least the first game on an upcoming road trip that is against the Philadelphia 76ers on Thursday. Later on, the road trip, the Warriors will have a back-to-back on Saturday, Sunday against the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Chicago Bulls. But let's go back a little bit to that New Orleans Pelicans win without Steph Curry. Jimmy Butler was great. He was the offense. He just missed a triple-double. Super, super efficient. Gary Payton II, he was sensational. 19 points, 11 rebounds. When the Warriors were going stagnant offensively, their best offense was GP2 doing his sneak attack. Behind the Pelicans, defense getting easy layups, getting reverses, dunks, things like that, and keeping the ball moving too. He was great with his 11 rebounds, but he was part of just that Warriors offensive ball movement. But unfortunately for the Warriors, they couldn't shoot without Steph Curry early on. I mean, the offense was just rough early in the game. They made 1 3-pointer in the first quarter and 1 in the second quarter. They were shooting 33.3% at halftime and 9.1% from three-point range. Luckily for them, the Pelicans were shooting the exact same thing on a night where they didn't have Trey Murphy, they didn't have Jordan Poole, didn't have Herb Jones, and a handful of others. Zion didn't do much. Derek Queen didn't do much, but the Warriors pulled it out. They won the game, but it wasn't a great win. It wasn't a dominant win against a lowly Pelicans team that is injury riddled as well. Brandon Podziemski, I thought, had a really strong game though, where he didn't light it up shooting, 5 of 13, 3 of 9 from 3, but he had more of that BP box score that you expect out of him. 15, 6 and 5. Steve Kerr loved that he was letting it fly and took 9 3-pointers. Just a much more aggressive and decisive Brandon Podziemski. Now let's get into the week that will be, and it starts with some news today on Monday. You don't have Steph Curry? Okay, fine. Let's finally bring in Seth Curry. Yes, the brothers are officially teammates for the first time in the regular season ever. They spent time together in training camp, in preseason when Seth was a rookie a long time ago, 13 years ago, I believe it was. And then the Warriors did sign Seth Curry in training camp. He was with them during the preseason, but had to be released, and it was all because of tax and cap and apron, all those kind of reasons. He technically could have been signed starting on November 11th, but each day that you didn't have Seth Curry on your roster, you were able to save a little bit more money, which can go a long way with the upcoming trade deadline in February. And of course, Jonathan Kuminga is the big asset there. And the first day he can be traded is January 15th. So that's why the Warriors waited a few more weeks to sign Seth Curry. But finally, enough was enough. Will Seth Curry be a savior? No. But this team is lacking shooting. He's another guard, sure. But the Warriors, they might be first in 3-pointers made per game. But that's because of his brother. That's because of Steph. But the big reason that they're more of an average team the rest of the way offensively in field goal percentage and true shooting percentage and 3-point percentage is that you're seeing the worst shooting season ever by Buddy Hield. That Quentin Post isn't knocking him down left and right like he was as a rookie. That Brandon Podziemski has been up and down shooting the ball. Moses Moody, inconsistent, has had some great games shooting, then has had some 2-point games right after that. Behind Steph, there's Jimmy Butler shooting threes, but he's not a high-volume 3-point shooter, and that his 3-point percentage is going to come down historically. So adding Seth, even as a threat off the bench, is going to help. He's going to be active against OKC. I don't think he's all of a sudden going to get 20, 25, 30 minutes, but if he can give you, all of a sudden he hits 2 or 3 threes off the bench, that goes a long way. And it opens up the floor for the people that he's on the floor with. So the threat of Seth Curry coming off the bench, making a couple threes, I think will help what has been a pretty stale offense outside of the star power of Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. Besides that, hasn't been great. So I think that Seth Curry coming in will help. The Warriors made a minor move today, too, when they waived Jackson Rowe, who was on a 2-way deal. He was a great story, very similar to Juan Toscano Anderson back in the day, local tryout guy who worked his way up the ranks. He was dominant in the G League last year as an older 20s guy. Stayed on that 2-way contract, didn't get a stint with Golden State at all so far this season. And when he was in the G League, he just wasn't putting up those same dominant numbers that he was last season. So unfortunate for Jackson Rowe. The Warriors will be converting LJ Cryer, an undrafted guard out of Houston, to a 2-way contract. He has impressed the Warriors coaching staff. That started with training camp. That started with, actually before then, obviously, in Summer League, then in training camp, throughout the preseason. Smaller guard, 5'11", maybe 6 feet tall. But man, he can just let it fly. He's a shot creator, playmaker, point guard also too. And he will be gritty defensively. He will be aggressive, rebounding the ball too. He has that pedigree as a winner at Houston. So it'll be interesting to see when LJ Cryer does get a chance. Because again, he doesn't have that typical NBA body, but they love his body of work when it comes to college and when it comes to what he showed them throughout the summer in preseason and so far in the G League too. But another note is the fact that DeAnthony Melton spoke with the media today after practice and just made it clear that he feels great. The expectation is that he will make his season debut on this upcoming road trip that features games against the Philadelphia 76ers, and then, of course, that back-to-back that I mentioned in Cleveland and in Chicago. If you don't see him then it'll be very, very soon after. But the expectation is you will get D'Anthony Melton on this road trip, and that with Steph being reevaluated on Thursday, then maybe he plays in one of those games, the back-to-back against Cleveland, against Chicago. They're not giving a date about when Steph Curry is going to make his return, but you get rid of Steph for a couple games, you bring in Seth. D'Anthony Melton, his return is on the horizon. You get that sneaky little LJ Cryer. That might help too, here and there. You never know. But I do think Seth Curry is going to help, even the threat of his three-point shooting. D'Anthony Melton, if he's right, is the exact player that the Warriors need. Two-way impact in the backcourt with Steph Curry. His length, his smarts defensively, the fact that he can get 2 feet in the paint and kick it out and either score, either drive, shoot the ball as a three-point threat off the ball. He can do some things on the ball as well. Man, they have missed D'Anthony Melton starting after that great 6-game sample size last year. You got to hope that he's healthy, number one. For him, it's going to be about rhythm, being in the flow of things, just getting his legs under him. So keep your expectations low early on with D'Anthony Melton. But the fact that he is about to make his return for the Warriors makes people inside the building very, very happy, because all reports have been that D'Anthony Melton has looked great at practice, in scrimmages with the Warriors, with the G League affiliate as well too. He's almost here. Seth Curry's officially here. Steph Curry will return soon. The Warriors have gotten through the hardest part of the schedule. They're going to hit the road again soon, which hasn't been kind to them. They're going to play the Thunder again on Tuesday, which is never easy. But you're getting some help. The schedule's going to lighten up. Things could look better for a team that has been average at best so far with these Warriors.